My question is about it's about a friend of mine, and it has to do with healing and everything. So what I do is I enable people to overcome poor sleep and fatigue and all that stuff. So I have an understanding that your body can heal whatever it has to heal. I mean, just a few months ago I broke my ankle, and the doctor looked at the x-ray. He's like, okay, you need 3 months before you'll be able to walk again. And I was running in 3 weeks, despite, my ankle being detached from my leg and all that. So I have that understanding.
Wobble, 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 wobble. No, we're talking about them, not you. You're good.
So I have
It was the detached word that got them.
I was just creating a visual. And then it swelled up and everything. So I have an understanding that your body can heal anything that happens. And my friend...
Provided you create the vibrational atmosphere that allows the communication, the energetic communication to take place. Your body is a veritable chemical factory, but even more than that, it's an electric circuit board. And so you got to be in that emotional place where you, in other words, if you are feeling fear, that's the indication that you got a big time wobble going on. You got to find some way to release enough of the conditions that the fear can move to love, that the fear can move to love, that the fear can move to love, or the fear can move to eager, or the fear can move to appreciation, or the fear can move even to hope. But the fear's got to move. And it's easy to move it at the emotional level. It's harder to move it when the doctor is saying, my expertise shows me that you are in this situation that cannot change. And that's a condition. He is preventing you from unconditional healing. Because he's making the conditions so frickin' big. That's Esther. She's a little animated about this right now. The conditions are so big that you can't get around them, but you can. You just got to find some place to leave the conditions behind. No explaining how you got there. No really understanding exactly how it's going to unfold. Just right here, right now. Me and you, source. Me and you. Me and you. Me and you.
Exactly. So that's why I ignored him, and I said, my brother's coming into town in 3 weeks and we're going snowboarding, so I need to be able to walk. And that's kind of what motivated me to, it healed so quickly. So I have a friend.
Well, we're not real big on that. We just have to clean that up just a little bit.
Okay.
While we think it's nice and in a situation like that, it's not life-threatening. In other words, snowboard this week, snowboard next week. In other words, not such a big deal. And we agree with you that when you have some reason to focus, we really, in this unconditional conversation that is so paramount to really creating the vibrational atmosphere that causes you to allow what you want, the less involved you are in trying to motivate yourself with reasons, because that's where you get out there in the weeds. That's where you get out there in the details. That's where you get out there in the wobbles, and sometimes you don't even know you're wobbling. You don't realize you are until a manifestation happens, you see.
Yeah.
Must have been some wobbling going on for you to break your foot to begin with.
I actually needed a vacation because I was working so hard. So I was like, great, I get to sit down. So
there are other ways.
So my real question is, my friend was in an accident 3 years ago, and he was 6'2", triathlete, all that stuff, and he broke his neck and got paralyzed, so from the neck down. And so I see him every single day and I help him out. And right now he's in a place where he's down at the emotional scale, and I don't believe I can cure him. I believe, once he tunes himself with his source, anything can happen in his body. So I guess my question is, how can I get someone who's in that state, who lost the love of their life, who doctors say your specific injury where your neck broke into the spine, not out of the spine, it's a subgroup of a subgroup. So how can I get him to a place where he can change his thinking to actually get functioning of his body?
This conversation is the perfect conversation for what we've been talking about here today, because those details that are factual reality, so factual that the doctor speaks them and now you're speaking them too.
Yeah, I don't believe them, but that's his excuse to me. As the
details become more and more and more specific. So here he's out here with a strong desire and these strong beliefs that are causing this big time wobble. That's why he's feeling so much discomfort.
Exactly.
And what we know for sure is that when a person is in a situation where the details are so severe that there is no physical way out given the details that exist, they are the best candidates that we know of to hear us in this business of unconditional love, because they have no other choice. And they are going to discover that it is the easiest thing in the world to do. In other words, we're not encouraging you to try to convince anybody of anything, but we want to say to you that unless you get there on his behalf, you don't have a chance in the world of helping him to get there. So if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would stop talking about where he is. We would stop talking about how he got there. We would stop talking about what the diagnosis of it is, because whether you say you believe it or not, you cannot activate the words and speak them to anybody without activating what they think about all of that and introducing it into the co-creative experience. Okay. So what you want to do is find that place of unconditional love. As you make the comparison, he was 6'2", he was a triathlete, he was all he was all of these things that he is not now. He was all of these things that he is not now. And almost everything that you said about it, even though you're repeating it from the experience that he has been offering to you, has huge wobble in it. You got to get the wobble out of you about that. Okay. You got to get to that place of unconditional love. Okay. You got to get to the place where you know that he's source energy in a physical body. You know that he's the recipient of source energy. You know that source energy has the ability to flow into his physical apparatus. You know that it's his job to be the receiver of that. You know that he has the ability to do that. And then just find, if you can, and you can, the easiest way for you to approach this where you feel only love. Esther was going to go a little bit over here, a little bit. Esther was sitting on the deck not long ago, and she was contemplating this business of unconditional love and the idea of wobble. And she'd been listening to us about when you sleep and during the night while you sleep, that your momentum stops. So your best chance of getting the momentum going the way you want it to is first thing in the morning. She was really focused on that during these days. And so she was sitting there appreciating, and she was looking at the water feature, and she was looking at the sculptures, and she was looking at the plants, and she was just feeling the beauty of everything around her. And then she said to us, Abraham, I feel really wonderful right now. I know I'm in complete alignment right now. I know I am. I can feel that I am. But Abraham, I'm focused on conditions. The condition of that magnificent water, and the condition of this beautiful day, and the condition of this earth spinning in its orbit. I'm focused upon these conditions for which I feel so much appreciation, but I am focused upon conditions. And we said, but the difference is there's no wobble in those conditions you're focused upon. In other words, Esther's practiced those appreciations on those things. She's worked them into a place of there being no wobble in them at all. So you can, so really what we're talking about in this unconditional love thing, we're talking about get the wobble out of it. Go as deep and as central and as general as you need to go in order to not feel the wobble. And it'll take you a day or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. It took Esther 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 weeks. Every day she gets it in a clearer way. You'll reach the place where nothing will make you wobble. There just won't be a wobble in anything. You'll just stand so steady in everything. And when you stand before your friend, knowing with everything that you are what you know, Jesus said, it's your belief that makes you whole. It's your faith that makes you whole. It's the absence of wobble that makes you whole. It's the unconditional love that makes you whole. And then he said, go forth and tell no one. Because he knew. They'd go home. They'd talk about it. They'd get talked right back into their wobble. Hey, you weren't walking yesterday. You're not going to walk tomorrow. This can't last. You haven't been walking for a really long time. What do you think's up with that? That's just crazy. You're not going to walk again tomorrow. It's not different for any of you, you have access to this energy. And you're right. You're absolutely right. Your bodies are so resilient. But most important, you got to get the circuits open. And your emotions are your key to your knowing whether you have or not. You got to get yourself in that zone where you are no longer afraid, or where you are no longer angry, or where you are no longer frustrated. You just have to get there. And when you do, you've created the atmosphere, the path lights up. And this situation sounds like we're trying to get you to do this so that you can help your friend to do this so that you can get from someplace you don't want to be to someplace that you want to be. That's not the point of all of this. We want you happily moving down your path all the time, because there's no end to the path. Don't get fixated on some ending place. There isn't one. But how delicious it is when you are in sync, when you are in the flow, when you are an extension of source, when you are all that you really are living this life experience. It just doesn't get any better than that. And now you know so much, you can't go back. This is a really good time for a segment of refreshment.